Hey guys, welcome to Breaking Food, and in this video, we'll be talking about the new Batman film. So this will be a spoiler warning. This will be a spoiler-filled video. So let's get started. So what do I think about the film? Honestly, it's an interesting take. Let's honestly kind of talk about how this movie was made firstly, because this has an interesting story. There's a YouTuber, I mean not YouTube, a TikToker that talks about. I'll find a link or the video to it, and I'll link it down in the descriptions. But the way it was made was pretty interesting. The way we got the film. So originally this was supposed to be a movie made by Ben Affleck. This actually whole project was greenlit in around 2015. This was during the time when they were still filming Batman vs. Superman and still developing Ben Affleck as Batman. This was before Ben Affleck had released his first DC film as Batman. So yeah. And then and then 2016 when he made a cameo in Suicide Squad, the 2016 one, and had was doing press tours for BVS, he did confirm that he was working on a solo project for Batman. So it was going to be written, directed, and he was going to star in the movie. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. From there on, so honestly he enjoyed playing Batman, BVS, and whatnot. I enjoyed it. But it was not until 2017 when he had to do reshoots for Justice League. And yeah, apparently he was going through some issues. He did not like working on that project, on the Justice League project. He had a terrible experience playing Batman in that role, in that movie, and he was going through some personal issues. So yeah. It was not until 2019 when it was confirmed that DC was wanting to move away from Ben Affleck's Batman on to different projects, and this was around the time when I think they had casted Joaquin Phoenix as Joker, and had, because the Joker movie was supposed to be a Jared Leto movie. It was supposed to be green. It was already greenlit and it was supposed to be part of the DCU. But yeah, they decided to go ahead and make the Jared Leto. I mean, a Joker movie without Jared Leto. And when that became successful, they were like, we can make a whole separate DC universe. So like how we have the Joker as a standalone movie, not part of the universe. We're gonna do that to other characters. So Batman and his whole universe will be set in his own universe. It won't be part of the DCU, and it's not part of the Joker universe essentially. And when we heard that, I don't know, from I think I remember at one point there was rumors to cast a young person. I was like, they could probably do like a young version of Batman, right? A young version of Ben Affleck's Batman where it's in his early stages. Because remember, this is I think sometime before they casted Robert Pattinson, and you gotta remember at this stage Ben Affleck was playing the Dark Knight Returns Frank Miller's version of the Batman, where he's already been Batman for like 20 plus years and whatnot, and seeing his early stages was going to be amazing. Because I think originally they had Joe Manganiello as the main villain. He made a cameo in the Justice League movie, the 2017 version, and in the Snyder Cut. He had an extensive role in the Snyder Cut, but he was set up in those two movies to be the main villain in the Batman film that Ben Affleck was supposed to, star in. But yeah, this is where then they casted Robert Pattinson. I was like, okay, maybe he's playing a young version of, Ben Affleck's Batman, because at this point he's old and he's young, so they might do something where they might make him kind of look like a young version of Ben Affleck, how they kind of did it with the Looper movie. Looper is actually a time travel movie where Bruce Willis, I think, goes back to the past, and they casted Joseph Gordon-Levitt as the young Bruce Willis, and it was to the point that they have prosthetics and whatnot to make him look like the young Bruce Willis. And that's where I thought, they're doing a prequel sequel type thing. But no, it was in a whole different universe, and honestly, I wasn't keen on um no Robert Pattinson. I haven't seen any at that point. I haven't seen any of his films, and I've heard his reputation of the Twilight film series, and just looking at images and whatnot on social media, people talking about it. He didn't look like a superhero, but and I did kind of make fun of him. I did a skit of him where I decided to audition as Batman and whatnot. But yeah, and I did a reaction to where he said something which you couldn't really understand, but after watching the movie, the dialogue was more clear. But I made fun of him, and I take it back, to be honest. Honestly, he's really good in this role. This is the issue. Because after I made that video, I think at this point Tenet didn't come out, and I think Tenet had came out by the end of 2020, and I had posted that video before, so I didn't get to see any of Robert Pattinson's work at that point. And Tenet was my first introduction to Robert Pattinson. Honestly, he was amazing. And then I saw Lighthouse, and The Good Times by the Safdie Bros, who also did Uncut Gems, which is honestly a phenomenal movie. He was amazing. And actually, here's an interesting fact. When Matt Reeves, the director of the new Batman movie, was writing the script for the Batman movie, he watched Good Times and he saw the performance of Robert Pattinson. He was like, you know what, I'm going to cast him, and he wrote the part, of course, the Bruce Wayne Batman part for Robert Pattinson. Honestly, I think the casting is amazing. Zoe Kravitz, and as Catwoman is amazing, and honestly, Colin Farrell as the Penguin. This is actually interesting enough. His first comic book movie was Daredevil. In that movie, Ben Affleck was Daredevil. This was supposed to be a Ben Affleck solo movie. You know, it's a whole weird thing, but yeah, he does not look like himself at all. Like, he plays the Penguin. He has so much prosthetics. It's honestly mind blowing. Honestly. And of course, we can't talk about the comic book legend, himself, the Venom director, the guy who would star in Black Panther and Age of Ultron, Andy Serkis himself. He actually just last year released Venom 2 Let There Be Carnage, and that movie, Venom is played by Tom Hardy, who was in the Dark Knight Rises films. A whole mind-boggling thing if you're into that. And one character I didn't know was in this movie, who was in Batman Begins, was Falcone. And it was pretty shocking to me. I didn't want to say my original review, that review I had made. I just came back from watching the movie, but yeah, it was pretty interesting to see that he was in the film and how it was led to Riddler doing his thing. But yeah, and then the guy Paul who did play the Riddler, amazing work, phenomenal actor. Actually, my first introduction to him was in the movie Prisoners. He did an amazing job. So yeah, honestly, I love. Here's my one issue with the Riddler's characters in this movie. I think he was an overall amazing villain. I think it was. I didn't like the social media part. Of course, the previous Batman villains that used, social media and whatnot was the two Joker. Well, technically it was two Jokers. One of them was Heath Ledger's Joker, and then the other one was Jack Nicholson. They record their own footage and put it on news. I'm fine with. But I didn't like the social media part where he has followers and this and that. The part where he's honestly going live, I am not a big fan of. Honestly, it could be just a small thing. I know it's nitpicking, but that's just me. I love the fact when he was leaving messages and showing his footage on the news, the TV. Honestly, prefer that method because I don't know why. You could have had the FBI kind of like trace where the post was located and whatnot, and no one decided to do that, which was pretty weird. So yeah, this movie is honestly more realistic than Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. It's to the point that his Batmobile is made from a muscle car. Actually, let me show you the Hot Wheels Batmobile I have from that movie. So this is the Batmobile, literally a muscle car. It's honestly like super surprising. Like I was like, yo, this is realistic. And him gliding, didn't expect that to happen. The way he glided. So he looks like he's using one of those suits, those gliding suits, that makes you look like the looks like a squirrel to glide through. Which honestly, that's a really, I know it looks silly, but it's an it's an interesting take. I'm not gonna say I like it, but it's a really interesting take on it because he's wearing an armor suit. Like his suit's completely armored, but it's not like a Ben Affleck version of armored. He has the whole bulletproof like suit and everything, and having the cape around. My GoPro was on. But having a cape to help him glide with, I don't think that's helpful. I mean, I would feel like he's gonna fall and crash into something, die from it. And the way they showed it in this film was pretty interesting. So yeah. One other thing is, they showed more of Batman than Bruce Wayne, and when I was watching this in the cinema, it reminded me of the Batman Arkham games, like the violence and everything. But it also reminded me of the anime series I will watch on Boomerang. It's another channel owned by Cartoon Network to show old Cartoon Network shows. I grew up watching those old anime series, the reruns, and it reminded me of that because in this movie, Bruce Wayne interacts with Gordon a lot more. They're like buddies in a sense, and he interacts with a lot more cops. And his so here's the thing: his entrance and exits are amazing. It's just your typical Batman. But when he's in a scene with, doing the investigation, it honestly looks like the anime series where he's interacting with all the other cops, the corrupt and the good ones. And I honestly prefer that method because it was like if you look at the Dark Knight, for example, I think it was towards the beginning of the film, right after Joker crashed into the bank and stole the money, right? He randomly appears out of nowhere. No one even noticed him. And when he's in the room, everyone had to, kind of in a sense, evacuate the room so that it can just be Jim Gordon and the Batman just talking, just having their own alone time together. This one, I kind of like how he's kind of interacting with the cops, analyzing every single thing within the room. The cops are trying to figure out what's going on while he's also trying to figure out what's going on, tossing ideas around. I love it. The cinematography in this, oh my guys, amazing. Honestly, I look at Chris Nolan's Batman movie, and it's got amazing cinematography, including the Zack Snyder films that included Batman, amazing. But this one I really love, and not just the cinematography, the set design. So the city literally looks like Gotham. Like it reminds me of the cartoons and the video games and the comics. Amazing. I think they did an amazing job because I think with the past live action adaptation, the TV series, the movies, they didn't they I'm not gonna say they didn't do a good job. It was not as comic accurate as what the Batman had did. I love the world that Chris Nolan was doing. I like the way that Gotham looked and what Zack Snyder was doing. I like the Gothic look. Even though I'm not a big Michael Keaton fan, I think the Michael Keaton Batman films were like kind of the second, like the closest one to being more like Gotham, because with Tim Burton, he's more of a gothic thing, and his whole gothic aesthetic that Tim Burton has built, he does this with every film, but the way he set it up with Gotham was amazing. I think this movie did a better job with it, so it was pretty impressive. So yeah, I think the soundtrack is okay. Like I like the take, I like the way they use it. They made the soundtrack, but it's not a Danny Elfman Batman score. I prefer the Hans Zimmer one, the Hans Zimmer Batman score, but and I personally don't like the Danny Elfman one. I'm not saying it's terrible, I just don't prefer it, but at least with the Danny Elfman, you know it's Batman. Like it's Batman, that's for him. Like that specifically is Batman. Like you have your iconic Star Wars theme, your iconic Indiana Jones one. Danny Elfman score in the Batman movies and in the anime ones is specifically for Batman, and every time I hear Batman, that's what comes to my mind and whatnot. Even though I prefer the Hans Zimmer Dark Knight trilogy one, this one was a little bit. It was fine. Honestly, I think it was okay. And the guy who scored it also did the Spider-Man films. He's done previous superhero films, so he's not new to the thing. So yeah. I feel like they kind of overuse his main theme a lot in certain areas, and I felt like they could have done like a different. They could have like made a different soundtrack or used a different one or something, and then they kind of. I like the "Something in the Way" song in this movie. I feel like it kind of fit the vibe for this movie. I think they also kind of overplayed it, but honestly, I think that song kind of fit for this movie. Um, I do like that, and I think it's pretty interesting. Um, Honestly, I think this is a so Dark Knight. Personally, for me, I think in terms of Batman, like live action Batman movies, I prefer the Ben Affleck Batman, like his take on Batman, right, within the DC universe. But in terms of DC, I think in terms of like the best Batman movie, it's gonna be the Batman. But in terms of like the best movie ever, out of all the live action Batman movies we've seen so far, it's gonna be The Dark Knight. Honestly, for me, I prefer Batman. I prefer in the trilogy Dark Knight Rises. I know there's some flaws, but I prefer that movie. I do like Ben Affleck's take on Batman. I prefer that Batman character, and then this one I do love because the world building. I loved Alfred. I love Selena Kyle's in this. The Riddler was amazing. I love the clues he was giving, and honestly, it was so cool. I also do want to talk about Joker's cameo. And here's the thing, I loved. I'm pretty sure some of you guys know me. I am a big Batman fan, but and I do love Joker. I think he's an amazing character. Don't. Here's the issue. You have Joker in this. Stop using Joker. I think it's a studio thing because look, currently we still have this DCU going on, and Jared Leto is currently the Joker in that universe. But then we also have apparently Joker 2 in the run. Joker 2 being Joaquin Phoenix Joker 2. He's gonna have his own take, and then now we're getting this one. Like, here's the thing, and my issue is, why don't you make this into a Ben Affleck movie, right? This was an amazing story. You could have made this into a Ben Affleck. Just put Ben Affleck in it already over there, because this is year 2 of Batman. So we can have explored that part of Batman for Ben Affleck's character. On top of that, you could have instead of killing him off in the DC universe, make him kind of make the character. It's kind of like with Thor. You could have killed off Thor in Thor 2 or Avengers 2, or you could have killed him off in Infinity War, right? Because at this point he only had, at the time speaking, his other movies thing. At the time speaking, his fourth film hasn't come out yet. You could have said, oh, you could have killed him off in the end of Thor Ragnarok or Avengers Infinity War. But no, you had Thor wasn't the best character in the MCU from Thor 1 to Avengers 2, but they built but what Marvel did was they kept going on with this. They made him better. Look at what Taika Waititi did. He made the movie franchise and the character much better. You could have done the same thing with Ben Affleck's Batman. But no, we gotta make things complicated for average people. Now you could be saying, hey, Marvel did the same thing with X-Men franchise and the Spider-Man franchise and the Hulk and all these other characters. But here's the issue. Marvel is having issues with owning the characters for movie rights, right? Like now, recently Disney acquired, Fox, which had owned X-Men. So now they can use, X-Men in the MCU. Marvel and Sony are still in a weird relationship where, like, if they make a solo Spider-Man movie, it's a Sony produced movie. Marvel cannot use that. They cannot make much profit out of a solo Spider-Man movie. But when they use them in, like, Marvel projects are owned by Marvel, they're able to make profit out of that. So they have this weird symbiotic relationship because Sony can pull the plug and be like, nope, he's in a different universe than that. That's Marvel's issue, and it's not their fault. DC, on the other hand, owns every single characters, right? They own DC in a sense. Instead of doing a whole world building thing, they are honestly screwing around with the whole franchise. There's a better way to make the DC franchise better, and it's not having to redo the whole Flashpoint reset timeline with the Flash movie and having different DC franchises with reusing the same characters from the DC universe, like Joker and Batman. You could have done something better. And I'm not saying this movie is bad. It's like, at least fix your DC universe instead of making these good solo films that are not part of the universe. Make it part of the universe and build it up from there. Just don't forget the previous movies, but not forget the way I mean is with the Avengers movies, right? The MCU. Thor 2 had introduced, I believe, one of the stones, and what it did was, instead of erasing the whole movie or canceling or restarting the universe, in Avengers Endgame they go back to that movie, right? They're like, we own this movie, even though it sucks. We worked our ass off. It's our movie. We're proud of it, but we're going to keep moving forward and still continue that storyline that we've been building ever since Iron Man 1. Just like that, that's what DC should do with their DCU franchise, honestly. And I'm not saying this movie's bad. Come on. They have no clue what they're doing. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching this movie. As always, please stay tuned for more videos, more reviews, more reactions and whatnot. So yeah, thank you so much, and as always, please stay tuned for more videos. Subscribe, share, and click that thumbs up button. So yeah, take care.